Oh, there you are. Hey, everybody. Sorry I was a couple minutes late. Good to see you. I'm so excited. Today, we are talking all about likability. So these are my Valentine glasses. I actually bought these to send my adult children for Valentine's Day. So I hope you like them. We're going to talk all about, actually, I'm going to use my heart glasses as an object lesson later. So I'll tell you all about that. It is also one of my favorite emojis, heart eyes. I love heart eyes. But today we're talking all about likability, and I'm really excited about it. This is kind of different than maybe what I would normally talk about, but it's also very related to often what I talk about in my coaching program, Life Mentoring School. We talk a lot about relationships, and since it is Love Month, I thought this would be a fun topic. Also, as I was doing research for this topic, I realized that this is not just like, you may go, what does it really matter how likable I am? It really does matter, because here's what studies show. Studies show that people who are more likable, people who are highly likable, just have better lives. They have better relationships. They have more success in life. They have more contentment. They enjoy their lives more. And so cultivating this kind of likability could really help in your life. So we're going to talk about it. We're going to talk about some of the science behind it, and then just some of the things that actually just seem, well, of course that's true. And I've got a couple funny stories to tell you. So welcome. Hey, everybody. Do you like my heart glasses? I can't see all the comments unless I put my glasses on. And then I sometimes get a glare when I'm on live. So the first thing that I wanted to say about being more likable is this. Your likability is directly proportional to your ability to like. So they have done these studies of like really likable kids in high school. And they're like, what is it that makes people really likable? And you might guess, especially in high school, you'd probably guess, if somebody's really attractive, or if they are really skilled in something, like really good at sports. And none of those were the first things that came to mind for teenagers when they were ranking likability. And the thing that they noticed about kids who are highly likable is that those kids like more people than anybody else. And I love that correlation, because I often teach that in my coaching program about lovability. Your ability to love is just your ability to love. Likability is very similar. It's really your ability to like other people, other ideas, and all of that. And I think it's so interesting, because you guys, don't we live in a time when the world could use some more people who like each other? So we're going to dive into what makes somebody likable and how you can cultivate this in your own life to be more likable. So the first thing that I want to talk about as it relates to likability is this. Be more childlike. So what I mean by this is kids they don't have like all of the same, oh my gosh, what are people thinking of me? Oh, I would like to go be friends with her, but what's she going to think if I do that? Kids just go up to each other and go, hey, my name is such and such. I like you. You want to be friends? You want to play? And they're very direct with how they like someone else. And I had this happen a few weeks ago when we were at the park. Thomas and I were at the park, and he has this, as you know, if you watch my Instagram stories, he has this just charisma that a lot of other people and kids don't have. And he's got so much charisma. He saw this kid at the park that he knew, but he hadn't seen him in a long time. This kid used to go to his school. So he runs up to him. He doesn't hide at all how excited he is to see him. He runs up to him, gives him a big hug. They chat, they start playing. And it was so funny. They played together for about 30 minutes. And as they were getting ready to leave, I literally thought he was going to start crying. He goes up to his friend and he just gives him a big old bear hug, like almost lifts him off the ground and tells him how excited he has been to see him. And so fun to play with you. And he said, I'm going to tell my friends at school how fast you are now. And he just said it with such sincerity. Like he found something about the other person to admire, and he said it out loud, and he said it with such sincerity. And I will never forget that moment. It was so precious. And it just reminds me that how not childlike we are. It reminds me of often how hard we are to impress, how much it takes for us to really enjoy other people, like other people. We're often, just the opposite of that. Like we're often going into a situation and all worried about ourselves. But to be more childlike means to go into the situation and just enjoy what's there. Like, how can we just be in the moment and enjoy what we have together? The other thing that I thought about with Thomas's example is just how much his body language conveyed his like and love for this other friend. And it was so precious. And he leaned in. He was excited. Let's go do this. And before we left, he gives him a big bear hug. And his body language is just, you can just tell how much he really likes this other kid. Now, what's interesting about that is that now this other kid really likes Thomas. Why? Because Thomas is kind of irresistible in this moment. It's hard to resist how cute he is and how much he really enjoys his friend in this situation. And I think, oh my gosh, I want to be more like that. I want to be more willing and able to show that I enjoy other people, to really enjoy them and to show them that I enjoy them. And looking at, as I was doing research for this, research confirms it. They did this study of people watching TED Talks, and you could watch somebody doing a TED Talk and have the sound off. And the consensus would be like, okay, we like this speaker, we don't like this speaker as much. And it had zero to do with what they actually said. It was all their body language. It's almost as if, and you probably would say this is true. How many of you would say that, and I think their research showed that within 7 seconds, you can make a judgment about somebody. I like them or I don't. I trust them or I don't. And a lot of that has not having to do with what we say, because we don't even have time to say anything. It's just how we show up, our body language. Do we show with our body language that we're interested, that we're engaged, that we're actually present? And I love this example of Thomas because he's like on the edge of his shoes, like ready to go, ready to have fun, ready to enjoy, being together. And I just love that so much about him. And I want to be more like that. So showing our enjoyment of other people. And I want to ask you how often you do this. And maybe you will be more conscious of it now. But I want you to think about, as you go today in your interactions, I want you to ask yourself, what is just my actual body language showing? Does my body language show that I'm interested in other people, that I'm engaged, that I'm present, that I'm here, that I'm excited to be here? And that sort of childlike excitement has been so easy to lose this past year, you guys, because we're living in such weird times. But I want you to still find ways to do it. I want you to find ways. My favorite way lately, because I'm such a hugger, and I still hug a lot, and I still find people who will hug me even in the pandemic. But what I often do is just give people compassion circles on their back. So, I'll touch them on their back and rub their back or pat their back or whatever. And it's kind of like my way of saying, I'm here. I'm glad you're here. And so finding ways, even in weird times, that we can show up like kids, that we can show each other we love each other. So that to me might be the most important one. Also might be the hardest one, but that nonverbal communication. Also smiling, and not smiling in like a fake way. But I think the more that we allow ourselves to be present in the moment, the more we can just really enjoy what we're doing, who we're with right at this moment. And so all of those nonverbal cues are really important. And I think we can get our best cues from our kids. The second thing, besides all of this sort of, being like a child, all the nonverbal communication, is just to find common ground. So number 2, find common ground. Now, y'all, we are experts at finding differences, are we not? We're experts at it. We're like, you don't exactly believe my exact theology. You don't exactly believe my exact views on whatever the topic is. And we're so good. We've become literal experts in finding what separates us. We have to get back to finding what unites us, to finding, and I'm not talking about politically or theologically, actually. I'm not talking about either one of those things. I'm just talking about our humanity. We're so the same. We all have same struggles. We all have similar fears. We all have similar aspirations and goals, and finding, like, literally looking for common ground. How do you find it? You ask people. You really listen to them, and they will tell you all the ways that they're similar to you. They will tell you all the things that they struggle with or that they're worried about that are similar to the things that you struggle with, that you might be worried about. And that common ground is really, really easy to find when you ask. And just that, the sort of 2 goes back to just curiosity about other people. I had a neighbor when I lived in my other neighborhood. We lived in a little cul-de-sac. And we always talked about, all of the women in that neighborhood talked about how this one precious neighbor named Donna Haybaker, you just couldn't help but adore her. And we were all trying to figure out, why is she so adorable? Why is she so likable? And one of the reasons for that is because you could spend 30 minutes with her and she would just keep asking you questions, and she would just be genuinely curious about your life and about what was going on. And I remember times that I would leave being with her and go, I didn't even ask her about her kids, or I didn't even find out, what was going on. And I would have this guilt. But then I was like, I just love her so much because it feels like she just has this genuine interest in people. And a lot of times I think, we're so consumed with wanting people to find us interesting that we forget that the way to do that is to be interested, be interesting by being curious. And I really, really think this is a skill that we all should cultivate, that we all should get better at. Imagine a world where, because right now we live in a world where you can't get a word in edgewise on social media and otherwise, right? Imagine living in a world where somebody just kept being curious about you and asking you questions and trying to find out where you come from, trying to understand you more, trying to figure out, well, that's interesting that she thinks that. I wonder why. And that curiosity really does go a long, long way. Number 3, show your real self. So here's what we do. We want people to think a certain thing about us. And so we show them a version of ourselves that we think they will like. You know who we really like? We really like the real you, the vulnerable you who, sometimes doesn't have it all figured out. It drove this home to me because over Christmas, I did some Instagram stories where a lot of times if I'm doing Instagram stories, I'm, sharing something that I'm teaching, or, oh, I'm going to be doing this live video. You should come. Oh, I'm teaching an oils class. You should come to the class. I did a series of videos in December that were just me making coffee, me making bread, no makeup on, no hair done, just me putzing around in my life. And the funny thing about it is people were like, I love that. I love just seeing you in your kitchen, making bread or whatever. And I was trying to dissect that. I'm like, that's so weird. But it isn't weird because we like to see people as they really are, like in their element. So when I come here at noon for an Instagram live, I have my makeup on, I have my hard eyes ready. I'm like ready. But in those little moments, that was just like early in the morning, just making coffee, just making bread, just doing like what I do. And it was such a good reminder to me that people want to see the whole you. We really do. We want to see the vulnerable side of you. And I think, again, it goes back to that sort of our humanity. We're so related. We're so like each other that when we find these things, we're like, oh, yeah, I totally look like that in the mornings too when I make coffee or, whatever. And really learning to be ourselves. I think we live in a world where we're kind of like afraid to be ourselves. We like to present this version of us that is put together and has it all figured out. And there are certainly areas where I feel like I have it more figured out than others, but there are also areas, y'all, where I feel like I'm just a learner. I'm just learning. I'm, trying to be a mom to an adopted son. And that is something that I've never had to do before, that I'm continually learning, that I'm still reading books about, that I'm still crying myself to sleep at night sometimes about, that I'm still going to therapy for. And that I'm still trying to learn from other people. Like, hey, you've been an adoptive mom for 10 years. Teach me, tell me what can I do? How can I learn? And so just being willing to be the whole person that we are, instead of just this version of ourselves that we think other people will enjoy. And my last point is that to be more likable, it's kind of related to number one, but be more intentional about what you like and enjoy. So how can you like and enjoy more things? Listen to this. How can you like and enjoy the actual life that you have? How can you look at your own life and go, I really enjoy, I'm going to take some time to really enjoy this part of my life. The people who are more likable, studies show they're way more positive about their own life. They have learned how to see their lives in a way that puts everything in the positive light, that puts everything in literal rose-colored glasses. And I take a lot of flack, you guys, like, oh, you have this way of seeing the world that's kind of Pollyanna. Maybe. Or maybe it's a discipline of learning to see the world the actual way it is. Maybe it's the discipline of learning to agree with God when he says that all things will work together for your good. Maybe it's not Pollyanna. Maybe it's not rose-colored glasses. Maybe it is just learning to really enjoy the amazing, beautiful, brutal, difficult life that we all have. Right? It's like a shift in perspective. How can I enjoy these people? How can I really enjoy this life that I have? How can I see it in a different way? How can I see it more like it really is, more like the blessing that it actually is? How can I look under the surface of things that appear to be difficult and ask myself, what can I gain from this? Is there a hidden blessing here? And that skill, and it's a skill. None of us are born with this, y'all. These are all actually skills that we can cultivate, that we can get better at so that we become more likable. So why do we want to be more likable? Because likable people are more content. They have better relationships. You know what it's like to be in a relationship with somebody who's really likable? It's really fun because they are cultivating these things in their lives. They're cultivating showing affection. They're cultivating showing how they enjoy life. They're cultivating seeing life in a different way. These are all skills that we can cultivate, that we can become better at, that make us just better at relationships, that make us better at living and enjoying the life we actually have. So I do think it's important. I do think that it's one of those life skills that if you could cultivate it and you could work at it every day, not only would people enjoy you more, but you would enjoy your own life so much more. So I hope that was helpful today, you guys. I hope that you will put on your heart, eyes, and decide how you want to see the world and see it that way and spread the goodness and spread the sunshine. I do have some, I will tell you this, if these kinds of videos are inspiring to you, I have ones that I recorded last year. There are a couple that are really good about relationships, one about how to love your neighbor, one about how to stop sabotaging your relationship. So there's some really cool videos that I will link to in the description of this one if you want to dive deeper and just take a sort of a deeper dive into relationships. I think it's a great month to remember that and think about that and practice the skills that it takes to be better at relationships, both for ourselves and for the people that we love. All right. Thanks for joining today, you guys. See you soon. Bye.